let me start actually with the parallels you drew between the Prime Minister and Roosevelt and Margaret Thatcher. Not the typical parallels. His critics tend to compare him with Putin, with Erdogan. You have actually spoken about how there's not much the opposition can do when confronted with a dominant and extremely popular political figure like Prime Minister Modi. Explain this comparison a little bit more between Thatcher, Roosevelt, and Modi that you draw.
Yeah, I think, Barkha, what happens is periodically a leader comes along and that leader captures the public mood, captures public aspirations, gives people the sense that he or she knows what needs to be done. Now, nearly always such leaders are polarizing. In the case of FDR, Roosevelt in America, he was extremely well hated, particularly by people who came from his class, where he was known as a traitor to his class when he did the New Deal. And he rewrote the rules of American politics in many ways. And he was an extraordinary man because he was in a wheelchair, he had many problems, and yet he won them the Second World War. He transformed America, he created the New Deal. And then you have Margaret Thatcher, again, a leader who I think people hated as much as they loved. Though obviously, more people loved her than hated her. But she really split emotions down the middle. People felt she was heartless. People thought she was thoughtless. People believed that she had no interest in supporting the poor, in supporting the minorities. The attitude she took towards the industrial working class made people hate her. And yet, there was a sense, I think, in the majority of the British electorate that she was doing things that needed to be done. She was the Iron Lady, to use a phrase she preferred herself. Now, when you are up against a leader like that, even if a leader like that makes minor mistakes, it becomes very difficult to defeat them. It's not that everyone who fought Franklin Delano Roosevelt and failed to defeat him was an idiot. There were some very good politicians. If you look at the Labour Party that opposed Margaret Thatcher, people like Michael Foot were giants. It's just they were the wrong people for the wrong time. Mrs. Thatcher just had the advantage. She had the public mood, and people therefore voted for her. The parallel I draw, Barkha, is with the Congress party. I think it is no secret that Mr. Modi is as polarizing a figure as Margaret Thatcher, if not. That just as there are people who love him, and there are many of them, there are people who hate him, people who feel he's transforming India and going in the wrong direction. Those people, I think, even more than the people who like Mr. Modi, are the people who are criticizing the Congress. They take the line that if the Congress had got its act together, Mr. Modi would have been defeated by now. The reason the country is in a mess is because of the Congress. Now, I understand some of the frustration, and I don't dispute that there is something to many of the criticisms. But essentially, I think the Congress, like the Republican Party before it in the Roosevelt era and the Labour Party in the Thatcher era, is up against a leader who's become a force of nature, who it is difficult to oppose. Of course, they could have done a better job of opposing him. Nobody says that they did everything right. But I think a lot of the anger and a lot of the frustration directed at the Congress is based on this bogus assumption that Mr. Modi is not really popular, that he can be defeated. The fact is that Mr. Modi is popular. Many people don't like him, don't like what he's doing to the country, and I understand that. But you cannot deny his popularity, at least in northern India.
Picking up on that, do you think part of the problem is this kind of denialism that those who actually do not like the prime minister's politics, they don't even want to acknowledge that he actually wins fair and square? You can have many debates about the relative freedom of institutions, but the fact is the electoral process reflects genuinely, authentically the popularity of Modi. And I find that part of the problem with his critics is they don't want to acknowledge exactly that popularity that you've just spoken of.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people feel that I hate Modi. Look what he's done to this institutional democracy. Look what he's done to freedom of speech, etc., etc. And then people who believe that say, therefore, he should lose elections. How come he keeps winning elections? They can't explain that. And so you fall back on the EVMs and various other explanations. I have to say that Mr. Modi makes it a little bit easier for these people because look at the recent events. There is no doubt he's going to win, and he's going to win by a landslide. But the way in which he's trying to break the Congress before the elections, the way in which the income tax department has acted against the Congress's accounts, it adds to this sense that he will win by hook or by crook. He won't stop at anything. I don't really see why he needs to do that. He'll win anyhow.
But isn't it fair